Hi everybody, welcome to KelbyTraining.com and welcome to a very special webcast here called Walking in Paris with Scott Kelby. So, guest of the hour here, Mr. Scott Kelby.
Thank you.
The idea of this webcast kind of came up. We were actually at lunch the other day.
Yeah.
And you were talking about you just come back from a trip to Paris. You were talking about a lot of different travel ideas, about taking pictures, post-processing the pictures.
I really want to cough. This would be a great time to introduce RC.
And we also have monitoring our social networking feed over there, Mr. RC Concepcion.
What's going on? How you guys doing? Hey, listen, just to kind of bring you up to speed on a couple of things. If you guys are watching this, make sure that you're watching this on kelbytv.com/on-air. You can also go to Scott Kelby's profile. He's going to be resharing the Hangout. I have a Hangout that's going on air. Matt has a Hangout that's going on air. If you guys are watching this at my URL, G+RC, if you're watching this on Scott's page, share this out with other people, right? We want to make sure there's a lot of information out here that I think that's going to benefit anybody who's going out and actually doing a walk. That's a good place for you to do that.
Thank you, RC. Good cover.
Awesome.
Why the moment we go on the air, I'm like,
Because that's the way it has to happen.
that is the way it has to happen.
Anyway, so real quick, just about what to expect for the next hour here. So we were at lunch the other day.
Okay.
You had just come back from your trip to Paris. You actually had your worldwide photo walk. You led yours in Paris.
I did.
And
So this is kind of like I did when I came back from my trip from Cuba. I did a thing called a conversation with Cuba. A conversation with Cuba?
Connecting with Cuba.
Connecting with Cuba, thanks. And it was kind of about going to Cuba and all this. I haven't shown any of the photos from my walk yet. I was talking to Matt about it, and we thought it might be fun tonight because the Worldwide Photo Walk was while I was in Paris, which that worked out kind of lucky. The way I wound up having my Worldwide Photo Walk was I was inspired by Matt. So last year, Matt was on the road doing a seminar, and you led your photo walk in San Francisco. And of course, I led my photo walk 15 minutes from my house. I'm like, man, Matt gets all the cool stuff. You know, RC and I are leading one, 15 minutes away from each other, and Matt's in San Francisco. So this year, I was going to be in Paris. So I had taped a class earlier this year, did two classes. I taught a class on travel photography, shot on location in Paris, and I did a class with Jay Maisel called A Week in Paris with Jay Maisel. And my wife went with me and some friends, but we were working, I kid you not, from like 9 in the morning till 10:30 at night, nonstop. So I didn't get to really go shooting and have fun. It was fun, don't get me wrong. It was Paris for a week. Oh, it was not fun. We had a ball.
We're feel for you.
we worked really hard.
Yeah.
But so for my birthday this year, my wife surprised me. She said, I'm going to take you back to Paris, and we're just going to have a vacation. You won't have to shoot all the time. And while we were there with Jay, a friend of ours, Serge Ramelli, I think I almost said that right.
I think you did. It's
okay.
a heck of a lot better than I pronounced it.
We call him Serge Ramelli here in the United States, but he's Serge Ramelli, and was there. And he took us to this hotel. That's not where we got to stay, but we stayed at this hotel called Hotel de la Vie. And my buddy was with me. He's been going to Paris for 40 years, and he said, this is the hotel I've been looking for 40 years. And so we stayed there. My wife got me in there, and it was a great little, tiny little hotel, a boutique hotel in Saint-Germain-des-Prés. Beautiful area, beautiful hotel, and I got to do nothing. So that's basically it. Now, my wife said, if you want to, stay an extra day and hold your photo walk in Paris. So I did. I held my photo walk in Paris, in the Montmartre area of Paris. Ooh. I only chose it because I'd been there before and I kind of knew where it was. I'm like, you're looking at the back of Paris and you're like, wow, I don't know. How about Montmartre?
I've been there before, yeah.
Yeah, you have. With Sayers, right?
Oh, yeah. No, I was just saying from your standpoint, though.
Oh, yeah.
You go to the place that you've been to, at least you kind of know where to lead people a little bit.
Exactly. So I kind of knew where I wanted to go. And then my friend Serge, who was going to help me with my walk and go on my walk, he decided after mine sold out, he thought, well, he would lead a walk, and I went on his walk. So I got to do 2 photo walks on the same day. It was a blast. People came from all over to the walk. I literally met people on my walk that had come over just for the day from Germany, from Switzerland, from the Netherlands, from, there was one that was really far away. Someplace far away.
Further away than the Netherlands.
Further away than that. I had the whole list on my blog there, but it was a lot of fun. I met a lot of really great people. We had a lot of laughs. We had pretty good weather at times during the walks. It wasn't terrible. There were moments, and I'll talk about it as we go through the book. But I thought what I would do today is, what I want to share is, I want to show the photos. I want to talk about the photography techniques. I want to talk about the Lightroom and Photoshop techniques. I want to talk about some things that'll help you with photo walking, with travel photography and things like that. I thought it'd be fun to wrap the whole thing into a class.
Well, and part of also what brought this on too was when we were talking at lunch. Scott brought his iPad, and he's going through everything, and he's telling all these stories, and everybody, whether you're traveling to Orlando, Florida, on a vacation, or whether you're traveling someplace within your state, or whether you're traveling across the road or across the world, everybody travels somewhere.
Yeah, and we all become travel photographers at that moment.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's I think that's the key to all this, is being able to kind of get out there, recognize what a good picture is, recognize all the things that we can take pictures of, and what to do with them afterwards. So.
Yeah, it's half the fun of it. I mean, if you're a sports photographer, you take a vacation, you become a travel photographer.
Yeah, you don't just want to put your gear away forever. It's like, I'm not shooting sports anymore.
And if you just want to shoot your family and stuff, that's one thing. But then I try to do both. I want to shoot, my family. I actually snuck a picture of my wife in this book. Well, she doesn't like to be in those, but she let me pick this one picture I particularly liked. And then I shoot photos for myself, so I shoot two. So I'm gonna kind of walk you through the book, and we'll stop at parts and go do some Photoshop stuff and some Lightroom stuff, or we'll talk about the photography technique. But we'll start here. We'll switch over to my machine here, and we'll start with what I do is each night I upload my images, or download my images actually, into Lightroom. And at the end of the week, usually on the way home on the plane, I build a photo book. Now, this is new in Lightroom 4. You could not build photo books. I used to have to build them in either Apple's iPhoto or Aperture. Now I actually build them in Lightroom, and they do a really, really nice job. The books are actually printed by Blurb. So you lay it all out here, and you hit upload. It sends the whole book to Blurb, and a few days later you get the book. Hardcover, soft cover, different sizes, whatever you want. Very nicely done. So this is inside. Look, we're actually inside the book module here in Lightroom. So you get to, this is where you lay everything out. And I thought I would just kind of walk through a couple things. Oh, I love this. I hate this. There it is.
That's the first thing that we tell people to turn
manual,
off.
not auto hide and show. Manual. That way you get to choose when you open it and close it. It doesn't do it on its own.
So can I tell you that it's because I've seen a lot of these photos so far, but the cover page is really my favorite. I love that photo.
Well, we got lucky to get this photo. So this is during Serge's walk. Serge decided we would start at the Bridge Pont Neuf and kind of walk along the Seine River, which you see right there. So when we started the walk, it was starting to rain just a little bit. In fact, in the group photo we took right before the walk, I have my hoodie
Everybody's
up,
hunched over and umbrellas
so
on.
we start walking, and we get across the bridge that you see in front of us, and it's in a full rain. So about a half an hour into it, we actually have to duck into a cafe, because it's just awful. We sit at the cafe and have coffee. By the time the coffee arrives, and perhaps a what did I have? A chocolate? RC, help me.
Croissant.
They're French, not a croissant.
Chocolate donut.
I cannot think of it. It's
Something
thin pancake rolled up.
Crepe.
Oh, crepe.
Crepe. So somebody asked me when we're there, can't you get crepes all over the United States? I'm like, no.
No.
You don't have. I mean, every once in a while you'll find a crepe. There's one in New York that's real nice.
Yeah.
But it's the size of this desk. It's like you know. But anyway, so we had a crepe, a little Nutella crepe, and then we walk outside, and that's what it looks like.
Dude, I
Blue
love that.
skies,
I love that shot.
fabulous. It's like we walk outside, like what happened in the 20 minutes? So I highly recommend jumping into a cafe for 20 minutes. And we come outside, it looked like it never even rained at all. It was just amazing. All right, so. The Lightroom books let you lay out the pages the way you want. So I'm going to switch over to the next page. So you see the inside cover here, which is blank, and then a shot taken outside the Shakespeare bookstore. So they have a Shakespeare bookstore with only one. It's the most amazing bookstore I've ever seen. It is very, very small. It's crammed with books, and there's a big sign on the door, no cameras, which breaks your heart because you go inside there, and we walk through the first floor, second floor, and we see people with little pictures, cameras, taking pictures. But I just didn't, I didn't really want to do it. I'm not like Matt, who'll walk into a forbidden area and take pictures.
I didn't know that. Cause, what was funny is I was reading. I was reading somewhere that you had said that cameras are maybe on your photo walk when you wrote about that.
Yeah. At the Sacre Coeur, cameras are forbidden.
Yeah. And what about was it Notre Dame? Did you go to
No tripods.
No tripods or something like that. And I went in there, and dude, I swear I looked for no tripod signs because I had that incident that happened, and I couldn't find them. So it was an incident.
All right, so this is just kind of a colorful, opener. So this shot was taken from a big part of the trip. So this island is out in the ocean, extends out of the ocean. It's called Mont Saint-Michel, and it's about a 4-hour ride from Paris. So when we landed, I asked my friend Serge. Now you got to realize Serge is the greatest guy, great photographer.
Oh yeah,
and a tremendous guy. He lives in France his whole life, lives in Paris his whole life. He's a Parisian. I said, hey man, have you ever been out to Mont Saint-Michel? His answer, nope. I go, dude, you live in France. So he and his wife were kind enough to take myself and my wife out to Mont Saint-Michel. Now, depending on what time you get there, it really depends on how much water is seen or how much visible. But we were lucky enough to be actually hiking. It's a half-hour hike. It's not really a hike. It's just a half-hour walk down a road. They don't let cars down. To get to this scene. And the sun was going down, and it was just very, very nice. We were able to capture this shot. And it is, it's not a pano. It is a regular shot that I just cropped to look a bit
so
like a pano.
So you cropped it wide?
I did. And I took a tripod. This is set on a tripod because it's later in the day. I did not set up my cable release. It was somewhere in my camera bag, back in the car, in the parking lot, a half-hour walk away. So I just set myself timer because I don't want to touch the camera. I don't want to do anything that's going to cause the camera to shake even a little bit. So the light was fairly low. I mean, it looks kind of bright on the building there, but it was actually fairly low. And by the way, it rained for 4 straight hours until we got there. As soon as we got out of the car, the rain stopped.
That's beautiful though, dude. Because that's all, like, it looks like the clouds are kind of what make the photo too.
Well, yeah. Luckily, we had some clouds because it could have been just gray. It was just gray and rainy all the way there.
So vantage point from this one, it kind of looks like you're standing in the water.
I'm not standing in the water. There's actually there are ditches and things. So you're kind of standing up on a roadway. The roadway kind of curves. If you were where I'm standing, the roadway goes to your right. And it just curves. So I picked this one spot, and I had to zoom in a little. So I use one lens when I do travel photography, a 28 to 300, and every once in a while I'll switch, but I hardly ever take it out. I carry this heavy lens around, and I hardly ever use it, a 14 millimeter. So I will put up a 14 to 24 millimeter zoom occasionally, but most of the time I use that one. But Mont Saint-Michel, you're going to see probably 3 or 4 pictures in there, because we were there for hours, because this was like, we drove 4 hours to it. I wasn't going to take 5 shots and jump in the car.
Yeah.
But we also walked all the way around that, and I have some examples to show you as we go on. But that was kind of, it's not in Paris, but it was close enough to make a difference. So this one, I actually am going to post-process for you. I want to talk to you about it. So this is a 2-page spread. So it's a regular-sized photo, but when you drop it into the 2-page spread layout here in Lightroom, so if you click on a page, you get to choose. If I click in the right corner, you get to choose all these different layouts. You can choose, a 1-photo layout, 2 photos, 3 photos, 4 photos, multiple photos, or 2-page spreads. And inside the 2-page spread, you can go full bleed all the way to the edges like that. Or what I chose in this case was to have a little black border all the way around. But you can also choose different layouts where you insert 2 photos and have text on one side or whatever you like.
Hey, can I jump in real quick? So 2 things. Somebody asked a good question, and it fits in right here.
Sure.
And the other thing is I want to remind people, because RC's kind of manning the whole network over there, is ask your questions. That's kind of what we're here for.
Oh, so I'm sorry. We never mentioned
Scott's going to answer questions
of course,
as well. So
we would love to have your questions.
So ask your questions, RC. You're going to kind of...
there's a chat pod that we're actually holding right on the Kelby TV side. If you're watching on Google Plus, I'm watching all of the stuff there. And we actually, before we actually go anywhere else, let's talk to, we've got a couple people that have joined us on the Hangout. We actually have Angelica's here. Angelica, hi, how are you? Where are you from? Are you muted, Angelica?
She's happy.
She's happy.
Yeah, she looks very happy. She looks really ecstatic.
But she has no audio.
She looks really good. So
now, it's possible they're hearing the audio in the control room.
Oh, there it is. I can hear her. I can kind of hear her now. That's pretty decent. All right, so well, we have Angelica. We also have Steve Common, who's on.
Hey, Steve!
Yeah, so Steve's kind of hanging out with us. I think
Steve's
that's kind of cool. And we also have Ugo, and Ugo's actually coming in all the way from Italy.
All right,
so we have a couple of different people. So
we have an international audience.
Why don't we go ahead and knock this out right now? We actually have. Hey, what's going on, man? How are you? Good. We're doing all right, man. How you doing, Steve? Doing okay? Yeah, there he is. There he is. He's just
Steve,
he's
don't
just
look
kind
so
of
excited.
yeah. He looks very very enthralled
Steve
to
just
be
got
here.
excited there for a second.
Ugo's all the way out in Italy. We're doing all right. We're doing all right, Matt. So, but Angelica had a question. Angelica
Sure.
was saying that when you're out doing all of these things, are you out using filters? Are you putting filters on the front of your camera to work?
For travel photography, I don't take any filters with me whatsoever. For travel stuff, now if I was doing a serious landscape shoot, I might take a neutral density filter or a neutral density gradient. But for travel photography, I really want to go as light as I can. I carry one camera body, I put one lens on it, and usually I don't even take a camera bag with me. The camera bag would always be in the car or in the hotel room. I really want to go with as much as I can with just one lens. So no filters, no accessories. Only accessory is really a tripod.
Yeah.
And I take a very, very light travel tripod, either a Gitzo or an Oben, very, very light tripod.
Cool. Okay, I was going to jump in with a question that I also
Sure.
saw in the chat, which is you're in the book module inside of Lightroom, and I think you probably heard the question teaching seminars, and I've heard it too. When you come back from a trip like that, you're coming back with hundreds of photos, and let's say you narrow it down to 50 or 75 photos.
Yeah, that's about right.
You start building the book. It's kind of a daunting task. And I always thought that Lightroom has a really good, quick way to get you started on a book. And I know you use it as well, which is autofill.
I'm actually going to show it.
Okay, cool. Okay, because somebody asked
going to build
about
a book. So I'm going to take you through the book, and then we're going to build a book from scratch.
Okay,
real
cool.
Quick. And believe it or not, it sounds like, oh man, he's going to build a book. It doesn't take any time at
Yeah.
all. But it's because of the feature
Yeah.
that Matt's talking about
Okay,
that will
cool.
save us a lot of time. So that's coming up. We're definitely going to build a book. But so the reason I want to talk about this photo, besides it's a 2-page spread, is this photo actually wound up being better than I thought. So my friend Serge takes us to a building, and I don't know the exact name of the building, but it's a very famous. I think it's like the Arabic International Studies building or something like that. And on the top they have a Turkish restaurant, and then a big wide open area of just nothing. And you can go up to the 9th floor, walk out there. It's right behind Notre Dame, so you're looking at Notre Dame. And you can set up tripods. You could have a party. I mean, it's
Really?
wide open, and there's like 6 people up there. My wife and I, Serge and his wife, and then one other couple. And it's a beautiful sunset.
Rooftop access.
Rooftop access in Paris. The only problem is the way the building is shaped. You can only shoot right down the Seine River to Notre Dame, but you could look through the glass and see the Eiffel Tower on the other side of the building. And what's the problem is they put up like steel circles, like for artistic look, I guess, on the whole other side of the building. So I spent like 15 minutes trying to find a way, because I can see the sunset going down at the Eiffel Tower.
I want to shoot
It
there.
looks beautiful over there, but I'm stuck on this. I don't want to say I'm stuck, because you're in Paris overlooking Notre Dame, oh boo-hoo. But so anyway, I walked around the other side, and to get this shot, I'm actually shooting through the glass. I got down on one knee. There was a circular opening about, a foot by a foot, if not even that, maybe 8 inches by 8 inches. And I put my lens right on the glass. So that's the key. I did have a lens hood on it. So you put the lens hood right on the glass to minimize the reflection. And I got this shot through the glass, and it looks okay. I mean, it's actually what we used for the promo of this class, and it literally is shot through a pane of glass on my knees, handheld. Because I think I did put up my tripod. I lowered my tripod down low, but I want to show you the post processing of it. But when you see the original shot, I want you to keep in mind. In my mind's eye, it looked like this, but in reality. I'm going to go ahead and take you through that now. We'll just jump out of the book, okay? So if you're in the book module, you can just jump to the develop module and you work on this shot. But I actually have a before and after to show you. I got a little class folder here. So let me go to the develop module, and we'll actually choose. So here's the photo, right? And then I have the original next. Let me close this, all right? So then so here is the shot. Now, that is not the out-of-camera shot. If you look at my sliders, you will notice it has been edited. Now, I'm going to hit the reset button to reset the sliders. please do not burst into hysterical laughter when you see the before and because I can tell you what the biggest thing is that's going to be different is, and if you look at my sliders, you can kind of see what it is. It's going to be the white balance. Because while I did see this orange sky happening, by the time I found a place to be able to shoot it, it was gone, and it was dark, and it was blue, and it looked like, ready, this.
Blue.
Ugh. Well, the composition's okay, the clouds are nice, all the rest of stuff, but it's kind of a, hey, it looks like you shot it through a window. Look, you can even see part of the window. So the first thing I had to do was crop it in a little bit. So that's pretty. We'll click on the crop tool, and we're just going to crop it in a little bit on all the sides here. Just crop it in. All right, so that was step one, was get rid of the bad glass that you can see. Step two was, here in the basic panel, was to make the sky look like it was a half an hour before I did that, is just increase the yellows and increase the tint. That's 90% of what was there.
Oh, yeah.
Now, looking at the photo, all right, I always do this, and I think this is really a helpful way to look at photography, is what do I wish were different? Well, the sun going down looks a little bright. So I know that the highlights might be too bright. So by taking the highlight slider and dragging it to the left, it pulls back those highlights, and look what it does for the sky. So here's before, and look how it pulls back the sun and brings back detail in that area that was missing.
All up in the clouds there.
So now, when I look at the image, what do I don't like the most? Well, I don't like the fact that it's kind of dark down here, right? So if I want to open up the shadow area, there's a slider for that right there. The shadow slider opens up dark areas, so I will open up the shadows a bit. We're getting there, right? Now, I think overall, and I think this happens to a lot of travel photos when you first pull them in, that it looks kind of flat. The contrast is just kind of flat. And I think you guys talked about this on the grid last week about editing, you know.
Yeah, one of the mistakes, the 5 mistakes people kind of make when editing their photos.
Right, and I would think one of them is they let their images become flat. They look low contrast. So to fix the contrast, now I gotta tell you, it's different in Lightroom 4 than it is in Lightroom 3. If you have Lightroom 3 and you move the contrast slider, you go, wow, this thing isn't connected to anything. It doesn't work. In Lightroom 4, it actually works. So it's worth upgrading just to make sure that it actually works. But watch the difference here. Let me show you. I'm going to increase the contrast, and look at that.
Yep.
Just increasing the contrast made quite a difference. The last thing was pretty easy. Anytime I want to bring out detail in a photo, I want to enhance detail, I go to the clarity slider. In Lightroom 4, you can drag it a lot further than you could in any previous version of Lightroom. I'm going to crank it up a little bit.
You don't get the glows.
Yeah, and look, you don't get the glows. Look at the buildings in the foreground and the trees.
Yeah.
All right? Now, if I want it to be a little more colorful, and by the way, I do, I might just bring up the vibrance a little. So the vibrance makes the colors that are in the photo that are dull, it makes them more vibrant. If they're already kind of vibrant, it doesn't do that much. So let's just raise it up a little bit. I would do one last thing, and this would be something that if I had brought a filter, I would have done, which is to add a neutral density gradient to the sky. Because I want to darken the top of the sky and then have it go to, I just want to darken the top and have it gradually fade off to transparent. So there's a tool for that in Lightroom. Right here is the neutral density gradient filter. So all you're going to do is double click on the word effect so everything is zeroed out. If you double click on effect, then you're going to say, I want this to be darker, right? You have to guess the amount. You can always go back and tweak it later. Then you're just going to drag from the top down, and look, it darkens the sky. And it goes, see where my cursor is moving down here at the bottom? That's where it's transparent down here. So it goes dark, and then it gets a little more transparent, and then it fades away down here. And then I can go back here to the exposure slider and decide if maybe I went a little too dark with it.
All right, so there's a bunch of people in the chat that are just like, wow. There's a lot of different wows. Don Cook even went so far as to say, it's really nice to know that even Scott takes not so hot looking pictures.
That was a hot looking picture.
It was, you know, and you saw a lot of the nursing.
It's just hotter now.
It's hotter now.
You said something in before we even started that. Before you started your post-processing there. And I think if people can get anything from all this, one of the big points is that you're making the photo look like it did when you were there, like how you remember it. And we all know that take a walk anywhere when the sun's rising or the sun's setting, and take a look at, and you see all these, you see shadows and highlights, you see all these different things. Point your camera in that same direction. Your camera doesn't see it that way.
No.
And that's our job when we get into Lightroom or Photoshop, is to make it look like it did when we were there.
Right, because you're going to see in just a moment when we put it together another photo. I mean, we're all sitting there talking about how beautiful it is, and then you look at the shots later, and you know, especially since these are shot in RAW.
Yeah.
Because RAW photos don't have the contrast and the sharpening and stuff put on them. When you open them in Camera Raw or Lightroom for the first time, you're seeing them without your camera's built-in sharpening, without the contrast, without the color enhancements, without noise reduction, without sharpening, without anything. You're seeing the raw, unretouched photo.
Yep.
However, on the back of your camera, it still shows you the JPEG. So you're out there shooting going, wow, this looks
This is
great.
awesome.
Then you open it in Lightroom, you're like, where's all the yellows? Where's all the orange? You know. So it has to start with a good composition. You have to have a good, because I'll tell you what Lightroom will do, and Photoshop will do the same thing. It'll take a good, well-composed photo and make it great. But it won't take a bad, poorly composed photo and make it good. So you have to start off with something good to start with.
Yeah, and if you go to the crop tool, I mean, if you look, it's composed well. You had great sky in there, so you used a lot of sky. So I mean, it started off in a really good place.
Right, and I don't like to crop my photos normally, unless they're sports photos, in which case you have to. But with this kind of photo, I think my job is to compose it correctly. If the reason I cropped here was not to fix the composure, it was to composure? No, to fix the composition. It was to get rid of that part of the window that I couldn't help. I mean, it was a round window, and I'm sticking my lens up there, and it got a little bit of it in there. So that's the basic tweaks there to do it. I want to show you the difference of just what the neutral density did on the sky. Watch. There's before, and there's after.
Yeah.
See what a difference it makes to darken that sky? It really does make a difference.
Now, Hugo had asked the question and said, just generally, how much time do you spend editing on a picture? Now, what you've seen here is pretty much about as fast as you'll do it, maybe a little bit faster.
That was pretty much all you had to do.
Right.
It just depends on the photo. Sometimes it's 5 minutes. If there's a problem with the photo, like I need to remove something, there's a power line in an unfortunate place, or there's like you're going to see me remove people later. It takes an extra minute. But I would say 5 minutes is pretty good for a photo. You know, depending on it's an HDR or whatever, it might take a little bit longer. But you know, and again, some you open up and you go, wow, it looks great. Done. And then some you open up and you go, uh-oh, you know. But with this one, I knew it was going to be a challenge when I shot it. You know, I mean, I'm shooting through glass. I knew shooting through glass does kill your contrast. I knew that was going to be something I had to work on. But what I didn't like was the color when I saw it. Now, I don't remember what the color white balance was on my camera. I probably had it set to auto white balance, and it didn't look very good. Because I usually think of blue as like a morning color.
Yeah.
And yellow as a sunset color. I took it at sunset, but the photo came out blue, but that's okay. We have a program that will let you fix that, all right? So that was that. I want to get back to the book, but I just wanted to kind of take a little detour. Any other questions before we zoom back to the book?
Lots of people asking about the tripod. You use a tripod when you're walking around. It sounds like a little bit of yes, a little bit of no.
I only use a tripod in daylight. Okay, this is you have to hear the caveat. I don't use a tripod walking around in daylight. I use a tripod anytime I'm shooting anything in low light. So this is at sunset, right? Or sometimes, I mean, if it's a really important shot, like if I'm going to do a landscape, like we climbed up to the top of Notre Dame, and you think, well, you know, if I had a tripod, I would have set it up. They won't allow tripods, of course.
Yeah.
But if I climbed up there, this would have been like, I want to make sure that there's, you know, even though I'm going to shoot at 1/8,000th of a second, I would probably go that extra mile to make sure that it was. But most of the time, honestly, I'm walking around with my camera over, I'm shooting. If I see something like I walk into a church, boom, the tripod comes out if I can. And sometimes they can. We're able to do it in a number of different places, just depends.
Okay.
Like on the top of that building, the Arabic International Studies Center.
Do you know one more question people asked about a lot?
Sure.
Was the cover photo that we used for this, Walking in Paris?
Yes, the font.
The font.
I'm so sorry because I actually had it on my list of things to tell you. The font is called Cezanne, and it's by a font company called P22, the letter P22. You can just look them up online and you buy it, download it right there. Cezanne.
So for those that might not know how to spell Cezanne.
There's a C in it.
C? Okay.
Let's go to the book, right?
Casante?
No. Let's go to the book, and there
CZA.
actually is a font thing here. It's called a font thingy. Let me go back a
that the
couple of
official name?
pages. That is the
There we
font.
go.
And so here's the font right here. Oh, I can't use that font. I have to do it back here.
I also went ahead and put it into the chat.
Oh, okay. It's in
There it
the
is.
chat.
Cezanne.
Cool. Thanks, RC.
P22 Cezanne. So what you have to remember, what's weird about that font is it shows up alphabetically in the name of the font house, P22. So you're up there in the C's going, oh no, it's not installed. It drives you kind of nuts. But you have to remember it's P22 Cezanne.
Okay.
A wonderful font for this kind of stuff. Okay, so back to our story, back to our book in progress. All right, let's move on for a couple more pages. All right, so here we go. Now, when I'm shooting travel, I always shoot a lot of things that I know are for the book. So they're not really designed to be standalone photos. You know, they're kind of designed to just support all the other things and tell the story. So we walked into this, there was actually a photo gallery, a gallery of photographic art, and I look up and I see these vines with the different colors and the blue sky in the window. I took a shot. This, the wine shot here, was taken during my photo walk. So as we were walking, they had a wine festival in Montmartre that day, and I walked by and they had all these different little wine bottles. Oh, you know what's nice in the book module in Lightroom too? If you click on your photo, you can recrop it, and because this is a tall cropping.
Yeah.
You can
can move it
decide your
around.
zoom or where you want it. So I kind of chose a little bit over there. This one actually has a nice story. So when we were there in April, taping my life, there's a bridge in Paris, and it's for lovers only. And you can buy a lock at a nearby store, and you take the lock, you write your names on it with a heart and whatever you want. You lock it on the bridge, and then to seal your love, as this lock is symbolic of your love, you take the key and you throw it into the Seine River. So you'll never find the key, you'll never be able to unlock. And so Serge and I took the key. No. So my wife.
I was there with Serge, so.
You were, yeah, okay, I was there with my wife.
I didn't buy a lock. I'm guessing you did.
So my wife and I went, we bought a lock, and we locked it on there. And then my wife remembered exactly how many, if we ever came back to Paris. And then we came back this time, and for our 23rd wedding anniversary, she bought me the lock you see in the picture here. And you can see it says 23 years into it forever, Scott and Calibra.
Oh.
So that's the lock we put in April, and then we locked our new one right next to it.
Cool.
So we actually got a real lock. And that was her anniversary present to me. So we have the two of them together, and I took some shots of it. It was very, it's a very nice, it's very romantic too. It's a beautiful bridge, and it's a romantic thing. And
Unless you're there with Serge.
unless you're there with Serge, and then in which case it's not nearly as romantic. So this particular frame is what I call just telling the story of the trip. It's not really here's a beautiful monument or here's a beautiful place. It's just, and you'll see a number of those here, and I put them in every book that I design. This is another one. I personally don't like this shot. Everyone sees it like, oh, it's cool, it's a gargoyle and all. So this was taken from the top of Notre Dame. So the reason why it's in this book is because I survived the climb. So my friend Serge tells me it's about 110 steps to the top, I think. 110 steps, because I'm not a big fan of stairs just in general. But 110, we get there, I'm waiting in line for it to open in the morning, and the sign says it is 423 stairs.
Very close to 110.
Very close to 110.
Just a little bit off.
So I climbed up there, and I was like half hallucinogenic by the time I got up that high, 400 and something stairs and all. And it's a winding circular staircase. But so I took this shot. My wife actually got a better shot of this with her iPhone. She did an iPhone pano that just kills this. But at least when I look at it, I can remember, I wanted to actually throw Serge off at this point. He wanted to go right down there into the courtyard. But it's a 2-page spread. So this one of these is actually kind of set up. So, well, they were both set up. So the shot on the left is during Serge's photo walk. And I asked my wife to stand under this bridge and pose as if she was a Parisian with a handbag. And so that is my wife hanging out there on the left. And those are walkers from Serge's photo walk group. I asked them, I said, I'm going to stay back here. Could you guys go through and let me take this shot? Because what I really wanted was all of them gone. But what they did was they actually got on the other side of the bridge and they all stopped and they would not go away. It was for like 20 minutes and I really couldn't go. Move. Hey, get out of the way. Yeah. So they're in my shot, but it's okay because now it has a little bit more of a memory for me, but I think it would have been a stronger composition with just her there, just the silhouette. Now, the shot on the right, I love this guy. He just looks so Parisian here. He's sitting outside of a cafe. And so what I did was, I didn't really, I didn't really want to just stand there and shoot him from right across the street because it was a very, very small street. So I had Serge and Calibra pose like they were together, and I shot him right between them. So if we can look the camera at me, if you'll turn the camera, okay. So pretend that Matt and I are, and so I'm standing there shooting right between and I got a whole bunch of shots of the guys having, he's kissing his girlfriend and all this different stuff. But anyway, that was the one I kind of liked because I liked the motion of the guy. Just had that Paris street kind of had some energy to it. That was kind of cool. But he would have made it great. So I bet he would have been a guy who would have loved to go on up. He wouldn't have been with his girlfriend. I might have said, hey, can I get a picture? But anyway, that was just one of those kind of Paris street scene shots that I got. But to get it, I was clandestine and shot between Calibra and Serge.
Everybody's done it before, though. You've been shooting that location and you kind of just point and move back.
I moved back, but I was able to shoot quite a few because they were like posing and they're waving, and I'm like right between them.
That's a good idea.
Next, so this is the other side of Mont Saint-Michel. So this is, I didn't realize, but one side of this island actually has all these trees. So it kind of has a little Harry Potter-esque, but man, did we have beautiful clouds, because I'm telling you what, we're driving for 4 hours in just rain and gray, and it started to break as we're pulling up, and we got out of the car. And now, so here's the thing, there's parts of it that have water, parts of it that don't, but there's a big warning sign when you walk out, and it says danger quicksand. And Serge had warned me about this quicksand. He said, they have this stuff called, and it's not quicksand like you see in the movie, where you go down, you go up to your neck and you're never seen again. But he said it's serious quicksand. I guess last year a woman died out there. She walked out there, got stuck in the quicksand, and the tide fully came in. So there weren't just these little puddles and stuff. The tide fully came in and it drowned. She drowned, stuck there. So you don't want to do this without a buddy. But we saw 3 or 4 people out there, photographers out there, and we're stupid, so we went out there. And we're walking, and it feels okay. You're walking on the sand, and you're like, oh, this is not so bad. And then all of a sudden, Serge takes a step, and it was like he stepped onto Jell-O. The whole ground below him shook for like 8 or 10 feet. It rippled.
Oh, it's like a wave.
Rippled. Yeah, it rippled like a wave. And I'm like, Serge, get up there. So we would try to find areas that are kind of, more sturdy. And then, but of course, where's the great shot come from?
Right
through the quicksand. So what we found was if you walk fairly quickly, that
you didn't sink?
You didn't really sink. You sank a little bit, but you just had to keep moving. But you did not want to stop in an area that was quicksand because you would sink. And I made that mistake I'm going to show you. So I wanted to take an HDR shot from the other side. So we were walking, we were first here, a little further back so I'm not in the water. And then you go back here, run, and we're over here. All right, so it's sand, still sand, and some water, but sand where we were. We're over here, and I set my tripod down. Like we're walking real quickly through and it was perfect framing. I set my tripod down, I kid you not, as soon as I set my tripod down, it turns to the left and starts sinking.
Oh, God.
Now, again, you're not gonna go down 6 feet, it's not gonna swallow you up, but you're stuck. I mean, you're stuck. And so I had 5 frames, late in the day, and I'll show you, I actually saved it, because I realized that we were going to die at a moment, and I grabbed it right before it went into this. So it started turning immediately. I mean, I laid it down, it was perfectly, and it starts sinking. And it goes click, 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 and this is the part, see where it's moving again? I realized, I looked down at my feet, and my feet were a half a foot, 8 inches down into it, and I grabbed my tripod and we started running. So that's why you see the smear, because I wasn't gonna wait, seriously, another 15, 20 seconds, because the last exposure was like almost 30 seconds, because I was at like F22 or something.
There comes a point where you just got to abandon it.
That was the point. We abandoned it right there because it started to look fairly bad. So let me jump back to the book here. And actually, we'll go to the actual book. All right, so let me move a couple more pages here.
Just quick mention, I see people typing in here, what is the black line down the middle of the photo? So this is Lightroom's book module.
Yep.
It's simulating.
Yeah, it's simulating the shadow of what would be in a real printed book. So I'm going to print this book, I always do. So if you take a look at that shadow in the middle, that's showing, well, in a real photo book, there would be a shadow there, and it's simulating the bend of the pages.
Yeah, it's probably for somebody tuned in a little bit late.
Oh yeah, so yeah, we are in Lightroom's book module. All right, so this is another one of those shots where I'm getting supporting shots. We went to a great cafe and we stepped outside and they had a bunch of Eiffel Towers through the store window. So I shot through the store window to get those. And then all along the Seine River, they sell these old Parisian posters. I just took a quick shot. So these aren't anything special. This is also another one that's I rarely will take a shot like this. It's just because there's people everywhere, and I try to avoid taking a bunch of shots with tourists, but these are all locals. And this is one of those things that it means more to me than it will to anyone else looking. It was just such an incredibly beautiful day. My wife and I sat on a bench, and Serge is walking around taking calls and doing things and arranging things. And we're just sitting there in the middle of the day, and we had a cup of coffee with us both, and it was just so incredibly nice that the photographic quality is but it has meaning for me because it was just so beautiful.
Yeah.
This is in that same park. In fact, I'll show you. Look at my cursor. See where the pram is? See where the I'm having a hard time coming up with words. What is this?
Stroller?
The baby stroller. This building right here.
You were trying to think of the French word for it.
No, I was actually trying to just think of any word for it. That's why I use pram, a British word for it. So right in there is this restaurant. And I just kept waiting for a waiter to finally stop because they were all very, very busy, and he finally stopped. The shot on the right is taken from up on top of Notre Dame. And I noticed that one person walking all by themselves, I liked the look of it, that pattern interrupted kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I just took a quick shot aiming down and got that. And this is another shot because I realized we're there for hours and we're shooting in completely different directions. So this is one side back here, and this is the other side, which was the clouds weren't nearly as interesting. But this is coming up on nighttime.
Yeah, the lights are starting to come on.
Yeah. And this is with the 14 millimeters. It's one of those few times I pulled out the 14 millimeter, really wanted to go wide, and then cropped it as a pano.
You had a really good point in one of the previous photos with the stroller in it too, which is
Back.
I'm just going to guess you're not making this book so that you can go out and sell tens and tens and thousands of copies of this book. You're making the book
For me.
for you.
Yeah.
And so, I think, some people get so caught up in, I have to have like the portfolio shot. A lot of times I think your books can be just photos that mean something to you, because think about who you're
Right.
trying to make it for.
Right, I'm making it for me. I don't sell these books. Now, I do make a book from every trip, and I have a whole stack of them. And I try to make them look nice. I want to put photos that are nice. I mean, it's photographically okay. It's not the typical shot that I put in my book because of all the people. I would normally want to get there at dawn when there's nobody in the park and all that kind of stuff.
But I think we get caught up in that a lot.
We do.
A lot of times
we do.
too.
And so a couple times I snuck some other things in. So here's a shot of this. This is on the left is a shot of the entrance to the hotel that we stayed at, the Hotel de l'Abbé, which is just the greatest hotel ever in France. And then to the right, this is my wife. She was just waiting, basically. We were waiting for a taxi. And this is outside that bookstore, the Shakespeare's bookstore. And it was made such a nice surrounding that I just took a shot of it. And she hates to have her take her photo taken, but she let me take this one, and I put it in the book, and I was very grateful that she let me have that one. So here's a good one. It's not necessarily a great shot, but it's a great lesson. So we're out with Serge, and we are, and it's raining. I mean, it's just raining and awful. And Serge said something to his group that was very, very meaningful, but I got a couple of different tips for you. So first Serge says, look, it's gray and awful. Everything looks bad. And he looks at his group and says, you know what you need to do? Shoot for black and white. The colors, everything's muted, everything's blah, blah, blah. Just, everything's blah. He said, shoot for black and white. So I was thinking, I really ought to do that, and it's great advice. But I got a great tip for you. So my wife was with me, and she's an iPhoneographer, and she's shooting a pano of this. And I said, honey, convert it to black and white. Now, she uses Camera Plus. So she goes over there, loads it in Camera Plus, and there is a setting called Ansel, for like Ansel Adams.
So, yeah.
She hits it, I see the black and white, and I knew right then. I wasn't even going to shoot it, but once I saw her black and white. So I think there's a great tip in there, because I wind up using this for the next couple of days, is you can use your iPhone to visualize panos that you might want to shoot, but would take 1.6 gig.
Yeah.
Right? But you can stitch it right there. On the iPhone 5, or anybody using iOS 6, right, so the 4S.
It's built in.
Right? It's built in. You can shoot a pano and have it stitch it together perfectly in 15 seconds. Just go click. Well, I say 15 seconds, it's quicker than that. And you just go bang, and it's done. And it shows you the full pano, and you can go, wow. So once I saw her pano, I go, oh, well, I gotta shoot that with a D800, you know. So, but I think it's a great way to visualize.
Yeah.
And because you know, you can see it in black and white, you can see it with effects, you can post-process it, and then say, okay, now I want to pull out my tripod, I want to pull out my camera, I want to do it right. So we're standing there under the umbrella and just shooting the...
That's a cool tip.
So use your iPhone as a location scout to be able to... Now, RC, I know that you actually will switch your camera to black and white.
Yeah, I have done. I'll set, I mean, and the part that I don't like about it so much is that I'll go through all the setting changes. I'll set it to black and white, and I'll shoot like that for a while, and then I'll spend my time doing the inverse again. I'm like, I wonder what that would look like in color if I desaturate. And then I have to go switch it all back. But it's a good idea for you to just use the phone just to kind of find out whether or not... I think the most important part when you're shooting is sometimes there isn't a picture.
Right.
And you don't want to go through all of that stuff and then be like, got everything out just to find out there isn't a shot.
Yeah.
So it's a great way for you to check it.
Yeah, and you get a good preview right on the spot. I mean, right on the spot, I knew, hey, this is going to make a great black and white. So I think that was kind of cool. But to be able to visualize panos, to be able to visualize HDRs, you know, especially I was shooting with a D800. And every click is 36 megapixels.
A lot of people are asking that, by the way, what camera you're shooting with.
I was shooting with the D800. I actually wanted to take a different camera, but I wound up taking the D800. The reason why I wanted to take the D4 instead, because the D800, if you take 5 shots for an HDR, you open them in Photoshop, it is over half a gig for one HDR photo.
You're going to invest some time.
It's half a gig, but on the D4, number one, it's only 18 megapixels, so it's half the megapixels, and you can program it to only take 3 shots and make an HDR. So 2 shots underexposed, the regular exposure, and 2 shots. So it'll bracket in 2 stop increments like most Canons will. But the Nikon D800, the one that really needs it, Nikon, the one that really, really needs it,
You have to do 5.
which you could implement in a firmware update for free to your users,
Please.
is the D800.
Yeah.
But anyway, little tip there about shooting. Yes, RC.
Now I got a question. Angelica Perry asked again, I'd like to know if Scott researches where he wants to go before going on a trip, or will just start walking around. I've had a hard time finding interesting things to photograph.
Okay, I got the tip for you. Hire Serge. No, seriously, you know where the best place I think online to research is? Hands down, 500px.com. If you're going to someplace, go to 500px, type in Paris.
Wherever you're going.
Wherever you're going, type in Ireland, type where, you will get tons and tons of fabulous photos, and a lot of people will say exactly where. This was taken on the left bank at such and such a place. They will be very, very, very specific. Now, we were very lucky to have our friend Serge. Serge lives in Paris. He shot every iconic place in Paris. He's a Photoshop guru. I mean, finding him was truly a blessing. But in most towns, you can find what's called a photo fixer, right? This is someone who will, for a fee, get you into places you couldn't normally get into, take you to places nobody knows about. And Serge is that guy. I'm not saying call Serge, because Serge is like a movie producer. He has a whole nother life. He was helping us out. He's a friend of Matt's, he's a friend of mine. So he was helping us out. But there are photo fixers in almost every town around the world. I did it for India. I called people that would take me around and take me to different places. So figure it this way. You're rolling up with a few $1,000s worth of gear. Even if you just have a D7001 lens, you're at $2,000. Would you spend $50 to $100 to have someone who really, really knew the area take you around and get you access to different places and churches that nobody gets into? And that's the thing. I think, would I pay $100? Absolutely. I think having a photo fixer takes your images, because if not, you're going to shoot from what we call from the visitor center. You're going to go to the most obvious places everybody's shot. You're going to shoot the same shots. But, with Serge, there are places and churches and things I never knew. I've been going to Paris since I was 22 or 23. And in the 2 trips I've been with Serge, I've been to 15, 20 places I never even knew existed. So I think that there's a real value to you as a photographer to invest a little bit. You've invested so much in your camera, so much in your gear, so much in the airfare in the hotel. Another $50 to $100 isn't going to make that big a difference in what your overall expense of the trip is, because lunch in Paris is $100, but the difference it'll make in your photography, I think, is tremendous. Yeah. So, but if you don't want to spend that, you're like, nah, that's not me. 500px.com, phenomenal resource for travel photography, just insane. All right, a couple more shots here, and I want to take you through a couple things. So these are, I'm always very, very drawn to color anytime I'm shooting, for sure. And you can see it's rainy, everything's pretty rainy, but the first two were taken on my photo walk. The third one was taken on Serge's photo walk. That's actually one of the walkers. We went down stairs to the Seine River. So we're up on the bridge with the locks, right? There's stairs going down to the walk along the river, and I saw her going down the stairs with a red umbrella, and I stood there, and somebody goes, I know what you're doing, I know what you're doing, click, 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 and just got that shot of there. And then when I put it together, it was it was tailor-made to go with the other red shots. But so that was, I didn't set it up, it happened naturally, but I saw what was coming.
Was it you that was telling me the story that on your photo walk somebody had seen your travel photography class and wore red boots or something like that?
Yes, she actually wore red boots. Hey, speaking of that, I've got 100 passes to give out to watch either my travel photography class from Paris or Jay Mazel's class. So I'm going to give those away in just a minute. Hey, we're going to take a 30-second break so you can just see what the travel class is about. And then when you come back, I'm going to show you a couple little bit more. I'm going to give you links so you can watch either my or Jay's. So the first 100 people will get to go and watch, the travel photography class, either mine or Jay's.
Awesome.
Or both, actually, if you'd like. So stick around. We'll be back in just a second. Don't go away.
Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Bienvenue à Paris. Poulet, pommes frites et jambon. La donne, la tête, la pillée. Je suis fatigué. Voulez manger la fromage. La voiture, elle pour rapide, cloque monsieur. Monsieur Beaujolais avec fâche. Je suis fatigué. Vraiment, j'ai la fromage. La voiture est pour la rapide, cloque monsieur. L'addition, s'il vous plaît. Au revoir. La fromage.
Hey, so we're back. I'm going to give you a link here in just a few minutes to go check that out. Alrighty, a couple of things. First, I want to take you through a couple more photos. We had some questions coming in.
Yeah, a couple. One of the questions that came up a lot was RAW or JPEG. So when you're walking around travel shooting,
RAW.
RAW.
Raw. The only time I shoot JPEG is when I'm shooting sports, and that's for buffering reasons and things like that, and for having to upload it like halftime for the football game. But other than that, I shoot RAW all the time. I want to be able to have little extra control. So if I have to push something a lot, like you saw with that first shot where I really have to press it, if you shoot in RAW, you have a little more levity of what you can do. It gives you a little more. You don't start to see pixelization and stuff quite as early if you really have to push things.
All right, and I had a couple of people asked, I guess they read your blog, are you still using the D600?
No, the D600 was just a loaner. I had it for like a week, and I had to send it back.
Okay.
Sadly, I had to send it back. But overall, I thought it was incredibly nice. More of a replacement for like the D
300-ish.
Yeah, well, no, it's full frame, so I would say the
true.
D700. But it's just different. But the image quality was terrific.
Yeah.
Image and the noise and stuff was terrific. A couple more shots. This one was one that I took because my wife shot it as a pano on her phone, and I saw it. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So after we left the Mont Saint Michel, Serge drove us an hour to this little town, which was beautiful, and it's called something bad, Malo, Saint Malo. That's what it's called, Saint Malo, because I remembered it was the Spanish word for bad. So. Not something bad. It's St. Malo, and it has a little wall all the way around the town. And it was kind of a rainy day again, But they have this little pier going out there, and my wife took this little pano, and I said, "Oh, I got to reshoot that." So the iPhone became an indispensable tool, and my wife did a great job. She got tremendously great photos. And what stinks is I'm seeing her final image. Like, she's posting live during the whole thing, right? She's uploading things. She's putting them on Google+. She's doing all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I have to wait till tonight when I get back to we have a 4-hour wait to get to Paris. Then I have to upload my photo, and then she's like putting them up, and people are commenting on them, and I'm like, oh, man.
And we talked about this. I mean, isn't that one of the benefits of the iPhone?
Oh, yeah, that you've got a cell connection,
Yeah, I mean, you're able to share your trip as it's happening.
Yeah. Hey, somebody asked if I used the 14 to 24 for Mont Saint Michel, and I used 2 different lenses because I wanted to zoom in a little bit and zoom out. But I think yes, I did have the 14 to 24 in it. I used those 2 lenses, but I think that's the only time I used the 14 the whole time I was there. It's pretty much just out there.
And you know, that lens has a look. When you're shooting
It's super
wide
wide.
landscapes, and if you ever see clouds that go like that,
Yeah, the clouds are kind of moving out.
that's the look of a
Yeah,
really
actually,
wide angle lens.
Yeah, look here. See how the clouds are like they're heading over. They're spreading this way over here, and they're spreading
And you
that
can
way.
really see it in the other one.
That's the super. Yeah, that's the
the-
super wide angle.
That one.
There we go. That you can tell that's the super wide angle lens. Yeah.
So
All right. So back where were we? A couple more shots here. So these are another ones. These are just walking down an alley, and I noticed they had. Mannequins basically set up in the alley to try to get you to go back to this dress shop, and so I thought that was kind of cool. And then my wife was buying a puff or something, or cotton balls, or who knows what, and I shot some makeup because it just seemed very fashionable and very French.
So, do you ever have people? Did anybody come out of these stores and say, you know, don't photograph this? And you and I have been together where I forget where we were, but I know we were together somewhere where somebody said, you know, they had a table set up with things and they didn't want us taking pictures of it.
Oh yeah, one
Did
time.
that happen at all?
One time, and you'll see the photo a little later. We were in a very nice tea shop in the Louvre itself. Beautiful tea store, having tea, and they take a little, like a canister of tea, and they stick it on the counter. And I'm sitting there. We've been there for half an hour, you know, drinking tea and stuff. And so I go to take a picture of it, and I take a shot, and a waiter comes out, and he actually moves out of the way, like, oh, sorry, you know. I'm like, oh, no problem, no, click. And then I wait for a second, talk to my wife, and I take another picture, and a guy comes over and goes, no, it's forbidden. And I said, what is it, secret tea? It's a can of tea. And he's like, oh, it's forbidden. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do, you know? But I did have to ask him if it was secret tea. Is that secret tea? All right, just a couple more. Oh, so we did, I asked Sarah, who lives in Paris, Sarah, you ever been to the opera? Nope. I'm like, dude, what do you do in this town? So they have a beautiful opera, and if you pay like $5 or something, they let you in. Now, the thing that I found very, very frustrating about the opera was this. There are 2 openings they let you in. You can see all the tourists across from me. See all the tourists over here? Mm-hmm. It's impossible to get a shot, basically. I waited. We were there for an hour or something trying to get that area clear, and it would never clear. There was packed with tourists. And I'm on the other side, packed with tourists. So I was destroying those poor people's shots over there. But the unfortunate thing was, it's a fabulous opera, is the shot you really want is in one of 2 places. It's either in the center stall, right? So you could get the whole thing in there, right? And of course, I wanted the 14. Did I have the 14 with me?
Nope.
No, I only had the 28. So I couldn't get as wide as I wanted to. But if I'd had the center stall, you would have had this beautiful wrapping view. Or ideally, the ultimate shot would be from the stage, backward. Mm-hmm. And they did have actually private tours. So if I were going back to Paris, I would arrange the private tour, because the private tour gets to walk down in front of the stage. Now, I don't know if they'd say, hey, can I set up a tripod? But we did set up a tripod in that little booth. We weren't the only people that set up tripods. Some people did. And nobody said anything. However, I have another photo in a moment. This is from on top of Notre Dame. It's kind of a boring shot. Okay, so this is the entryway before you get into the opera. And I thought it was just fabulous. It's all marble and it's incredible. So I took a number of shots down there, just handheld. They won't let you use a tripod, really. But this is an interesting story. This looks like Versailles, right? Mm-hmm. That is in the Paris Opera House. That is literally, so the opera room, or whatever, the theater itself is the opera room. Hey, the opera room, man. The opera is on one side of the building, and then this beautiful, incredible hallway where they hold banquets or whatever is on the other end. And it's just absolutely, it'll remind me of Versailles, the palace, you know, outside of Paris. So I set up my tripod, and I'm standing there with Serge, and as soon as we set up the tripod, and I'm trying to wait for people to kind of clear out of there, here comes the security guard. Can't set up a tripod. And I'm like, oh, really? And so Serge asked him in French, he says, why not? And he said, no professional photos. Now, this is interesting. So he says, no professional photos, to which I said, the camera takes the photos, not the tripod. all the tripod does is keep the professional photos from looking blurry. And so Serge says to the guy, tell you what, we just want to take one photo. You look that way. I kid you not. Serge says to him, you look that way. We're going to take one photo, and you can pretend you never said anything to us, and we just take this one photo, and that's it. And the guy goes, we. And he turns and walks away. And so Serge looks at me and goes, you get one shot. So I just waited. I didn't even put up my tripod. I stood there and waited. If you look down the hallway, you can see there's some people back there. There's a few people. But there were tons of people. I just waited and waited and waited and waited until there was this one clear moment. As soon as it looked clear, I had Serge checking one side, my wife looking down the other hallway. When it looked like there was going to be a 30-second gap, I set it up, I got my one shot, boom, and I ran out of there.
Wow.
And it's not HDR. It's just a single exposure.
I saw somebody asked, is that an HDR?
It is not an HDR. What it is I took it into Lightroom and just opened up, used the shadow slider and clarity. That's it. That's all it needed was shadow. Oh, and you can tell, look out the window to your left, and the highlights were a little bright. I pulled the highlights back. So it's a 3-slider fix, but it was actually fairly easy.
And by the way, people are loving the opera photos. Dude, I'm telling you, I know you see it because you were there and you saw those people in that photo, but the photo back where you were talking about shooting across, it's a beautiful photo. I love that photo because I said the same thing.
Kind of drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Those
we
people
were at lunch and I'm like, dude, me and Eric were sitting there. We're like, we love this photo. And you're like, yeah, the people. But it's a beautiful photo.
Well, thanks. And that's the roof there, of course, of the same place. Just beautiful. I just wish I had a bright, and of course, the people, they kind of drove me a little bit nuts. But the place was just so beautiful. You could have spent the day. Unfortunately, we were there at the end of the day, and I almost went back. I wanted to go the next morning and take my 14 and get it right. But the reason I didn't go back was without access to that center stall.
You were going to get the same thing?
Yeah, or I would have had to arrange. It was the morning of my photo walk, so it was a little too risky. We're almost out of photos here. So these two are just, again, these are kind of throwaway shots that you just put in the book. This was, remember I said we ducked out of the rain for 20 minutes? Mm-hmm. So that was my coffee. And that was a reflection in a picture that was right behind Serge and his wife. They were sat at a window. So just a couple little quick shots to just, to set the stage. This is an actual real-life, honest-to-goodness pano. Hey, we finally have one, right? So this is honest-to-goodness pano. This is like 7 frames, just taken standing there on the bridge. So just literally click, 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 and it went together the first time, and I was rather pleased. But I have a trick I'm going to show you about fall leaves here in a minute that is kind of fun. Did you have a question there?
I was going to have something because you were talking about this being a pano. When we were at lunch, you mentioned a pretty cool technique, which was you would just take in not a full pano, 7 or 8 frames across. Okay,
I'm showing that next.
There we go.
I'm like there. Oh, here's where I want to show you. So these 2 shots. This one was taken in St. Malo to your left. Just a little empty area. There was nobody there. I like the trees. And this was taken on Serge's photo walk along the river. I have the original photo because I want to show you 2 techniques. I'll show you the photo and you'll see. So let's go back to the class photos. Well, let's go to the grid and then we'll go to class photos for class. All right. So here's the original photo. And you'll notice there's another couple there. And they're ruining the shot.
2 couples is a crowd.
2 couples is a crowd. Thank you for noticing. But also, it doesn't look nearly as fall-like as the one that you saw. And I knew a trick. In fact, I told Serge the trick while we were there. I'm going to show it to you now. But I was like, Serge, I've got the killer trick for making anything look like fall. So you could try to increase the vibrance, which I would do a little bit. But it gets a little too much pretty quick, right? So I'm going to reset it back to 0. And you can see what I've done. I've done 2 things to this photo. Add contrast and lower the highlights. Here's before and lower the highlights. So the highlight certainly helped, right?
I love the highlight slider.
Oh, the highlight slider is incredibly powerful because you can get that blown out look if you want, or you can go the other way. And so when I looked at that photo, your eye's drawn to the brightest thing in the photo. I want you to look at this couple, but I'm looking right over here. So by pulling the highlights down, it kind of takes some of that onus off there a little bit. So I want to show you my fall leaves trick. I just press Command E on Mac or Control E on PC, and it jumps you over to Photoshop, CS6. right there. You may have heard of it from Adobe. So the first thing I had to do is get rid of these people. It actually took a few minutes. It's not as easy as you would think. But I started off by using the spot healing brush. And let's make sure we actually choose the spot healing brush. And I would just go over her, and we'll see how it goes. Not bad. Pretty close.
Yeah, he's holding an arm.
Yeah, he's holding an arm. That's sad. So sad. All right. And then, you just do a little bit more. And I wound up having to use the clone stamp tool to get rid of him. But I think everybody pretty much knows how to get rid of boyfriends. So, oops, now he's just a disembodied head. So you can see it took me a minute or two, but it's easy enough to get rid of them, right? And then just go straight down this. That was easy. Look, they're almost gone, Matt. Just a little bit more.
There's a leg.
There's a leg, but it's not a very good leg. And then we'll just copy some of the ground over here. And so they're gone quick enough. All right, so that leaves us with this one couple. But I want to show you my trick for fall leaves. All righty. So the trick is this, and it's literally 3 steps. Step 1 is to change the mode to LAB color. Now, you just go into the image menu under mode and choose LAB color. Nothing happens to your photo. You change it, it looks the same. Right? It blinks, but nothing else.
Yeah.
Number 2, go into the image menu and go to apply image. All right? Go to apply image, and it's going to be set to multiply. So you're going to switch it to soft light. All right? Which looks good, but it doesn't look like fall yet. The trick for fall is to switch the channel from LAB mode to B, the letter B, and watch. Fall.
Look at that.
That's it. So check it out. It's a wonderful recipe for fall. It makes all that range of color.
That's a really good tip, because we've often said before too that vibrance has taken away a lot of the reasons to do the LAB trick. But that's one because you saw how bad vibrance was.
I go to LAB mode very, very rarely anymore, but this is one of the ones that I go there for. So now I had to explain it to Serge. He wrote it in his phone, but I'm hoping that Serge, even though it's late at night in Paris, hope he's watching, because there you go. There's the actual demo of it. But look at the difference. I mean, it really makes a big difference.
Serge has our number. I'm sure he'll.
he'll drop us a line. Serge he's the greatest. Okay, so that was just a little wanted to kind of go over how we got to that spot.
Some people asking about the professional photo thing.
Yeah.
And I think you had said, I don't know if it was in your last travel class, but I'd actually heard you say one time, when we're out there, a lot of times when they see you with that DSLR, you automatically are branded the professional photographer. And at one time you had said sometimes just being nice, just saying when somebody comes up and says, you're not allowed to do that, you just say, I'm sorry, I really want to get, I think this is beautiful, I'd love to get a great photo of it.
Yeah, so here's what's going to happen. You're okay with me shooting the photo, right? But it's going to be a little blurry because it's just not enough light in here for this camera. So if you let me put it on a tripod, the only difference is my photo won't be blurry. You don't want me to go back with a blurry photo, do you?
Yeah.
And most people are pretty reasonable. Now, some have a very, very strict edict, and I'm sure that probably somebody told him no tripods.
Yeah.
But he was cool enough to say, all right, just one.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Arguing with them usually isn't going to get it done. Being really, really nice and appealing to their humanity, like, come on, one photo, what's it going to hurt? Okay. Basically, they don't want to get in trouble. RC.
Yeah, no, it's.
Oh, I'm sorry, you were looking. I thought you had that.
You saw a question
I was
look.
agreeing with you on that.
Yeah, that saw a question look. All right, so a couple more photos here. We're just about done. Oh, I got a tutorial with this one too. Okay, so this is taken from the top of that hotel, the Arabic International something or other placey. Mm-hmm. So this is the view you get, and you can't see the Eiffel Tower at all because it's on the other side, but this is the view. So here you are, all by yourself, Notre Dame right there. And Serge said something to me. Now you got to realize Serge is an instructor. He's a teacher. He's very, very, very.
He's a great photographer. Great.
He's a trainer. He's a photographer and all. So Serge said something to me, and I just wanted to slap him and slap myself when he said it because I knew he was right the second it came out of his mouth. When I'm out, I'm either shooting a wide angle, or I'll shoot a pano. I think to shoot a pano, and my panos would normally be 5 photos minimum, 7 photos, maybe 14, right? Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
And Serge is up there and says, you know what works great? Just take 2 photos, wide angle. I'm like,
wide?
I just never think of shooting 2 photos. So it's not really wide. It's maybe 50 millimeter or 45 millimeter, something like that. It's a zoom lens. It's not 28. It's not all the way out wide like that. And he goes, yeah, just take 2, 1, 2, right next to each other. I'm like, son of a gun, Serge, and it worked beautifully. You know the bridge that you saw earlier in black and white? 2 photos, 1, 2. And so I'm thinking, why in the world when I think pano, I think 14 images. Why don't I ever think 2 images? So I actually have the 2 images, if I can show you real quick, because I know we're out of time, so I don't want to spend a whole bunch. But here's the 2 images. 1, 2. That's it. I'm on a tripod. Click, move it over, click. That's it. There's the 2 images. And so all you do in Lightroom then later is select both images, go Photo, Edit in, and you want to choose Merge to Panorama in Photoshop. All right? So give it just a second. It's going to take them over to Photoshop. There it is. It says, do you want to blend these images together? Well, duh. Click OK, and it does the rest. Now, you're going to have to crop it, of course.
And so while this
there it is. You got it.
Yeah,
it is the Arab World Institute.
Arab World Institute.
There it is.
While it's blending that together, you know why that is such it's such a brilliant idea, because we get so caught up on things that we knew 8 and 10 years ago. If you wanted to get a wide photo that you could print at a decent size, you had to shoot all those frames and do it that way, because you'd never be able to print it at a decent size.
You didn't have enough resolution.
But with the resolution of the cameras today, that's wider than anything we would have gotten 8 years ago.
Oh yeah, each one of these is 36 megapixels, so you wind up with a 70-something megapixel file. You could print this thing as a billboard. So now you do have to, at the very end, crop it. Now I want to point out something. Do you see on screen, you see a crack right here? It's a crack. That's just the magnification, because you're looking at an 8.78% magnification. When you flatten this image, that crack, look, even when you zoom in, goes away. It stitched it perfectly together. So all you're going to do is get the crop tool, and you're going to crop in here, and you're going to crop in here, and you're going to crop a little over this way, and bango, there's your pano. Flatten the image. Now, I would do one more thing. I would actually finish this off in Lightroom or Camera Raw. We'll just do it in Camera Raw just for giggles. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Let me just save it in here. I'm going to save the image as a JPEG. Then I'm going to close it, and I'm just going to reopen it in Camera Raw. So let's go find it. We'll hit Format, Camera Raw, and it'll open it in Camera Raw. And then I'll just finish it off here. Now this is this long pano. And here's what I would do. First off, what do I wish were different? Well, I wish the sky was a little prettier. Let's take the tint and move it a little this way. There we go, mission accomplished. I wish the highlights were brighter. Take a look, Matt. It's like there's not a lot of highlights, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of lights, but they're not really standing out.
I'm going to look at that. It's like I turned on the lights. So I pull it up a little bit, maybe add a little contrast. How about some clarity, Matt? Do I want to bring out detail? Absolutely. Now, the only problem with all of this, and maybe even some shadows too, the only problem is, and look at just those changes, look, is the sky now is too bright.
Yeah, up in the top left.
Up in the top, well, the whole top. So I would just go to the same filter like we did in Lightroom, because Camera Raw and Lightroom's develop module are exactly the same. Get the graduated filter, lower the exposure a little bit, darken my sky, look at that. And
so you're able to get like the best of both worlds. You turn the lights on.
Yep, I turn the lights on,
off the sky.
and then I dark the sky, and that's how we got to the final exposure. All right, back to the book just to finish things off. And book. Hey, I think we have to click the button here, the magical button that gets us to the right book. There we go. And at the end of the book here, this is actually at the Louvre. They have a beautiful cafe. And to find where there was a waiter actually taking someone's order took me literally about 15 minutes. It literally is just a matter of patience. Just standing there waiting till just the right time. Instead of just saying, well, he's not there. I just stood there and stood there and stood there and stood there and watched him go everywhere else and clean tables and do all this stuff. And then finally he stopped, took an order, went click. Because he looks like he's got the slicked hair and the tux and the whole 9 yards. On the right was breakfast one morning. I literally just, that's room service breakfast. The room came with like a continental breakfast, and you could have it downstairs or delivered to your room. And I just took my camera with my 28 lens, stuck it straight over my coffee and straight over the fromage, le fromage, jambon avec mon fromage, and then bang, took a couple quick shots.
Do you move it? Do you move it toward a window? Do you do anything?
Oh yeah. Actually, my wife did. She wanted to get an
She's been
iPhone
watching
shot. I'm
our
like,
train.
oh yeah. She took it, put it right near the open window in the room, and I'm like, hey, don't eat that yet. And so here's the closing frames. So there's another shot of the opera. I didn't really much like it. I don't like my shadow in there. I would have to really work on that one in Photoshop more than I care to. But at the end of the photo books, what I'll do sometimes is choose a page with a bunch of photos that didn't really have a place anywhere in the image. Mm-hmm. So that's what these are. This tea can got me in trouble. That's a little tea can where they're like, oh, don't shoot that. Oh yeah, I know. Here's some more makeup. Corner of the Louvre. This is actually in the courtyard of the Arabic International. Where is it?
Arabic
International Center.
It's gone, yeah.
But it has some very modern architecture. It's just an incredible building to go see, and it's just beautiful. And then this was again in that courtyard I showed earlier where I talked about, and this was just walking around in the photo walk.
Can you show them the page panel really quick, just to show them how easy,
Right.
how many different templates there are?
Right. So when you go to multi-photo, I just hit something bad. Let's undo.
That's kind of cool looking, though, too.
But you have all these different ones you could choose. So you could do 12 photos, you could do 16 photos, different ones with their names, blocks of photos, broken blocks, film strips, and you can even, and as you click on it, it'll choose a different one. For example, let's go look at this one. There's a view with no borders.
I kind of like that too.
There's a view with different, you know what I mean?
Awesome. There's a ton of them in there.
And it all happens live. I think that's what's really, really cool. Of course, I only have 6 photos there, so it looks kind of stupid. But you could go to 4 photos.
When Lightroom 4 first came out, I was a little ticked that you really can't add your own templates in there. You can, but it's wonky.
Well, no, but what you can do is you can actually put a photo anywhere you want. You can go to the full page, one photo full page, and you can move a photo anywhere you want on the page. But you can't create really your own 2 or 3.
There's so many. That's the thing. There's
there's a bazillion of them.
Do you start your photo books with one photo? Because we kind of talked about this at the beginning.
Yeah,
too.
actually, I'm going to build the book right now.
Okay.
So I think is that the last page? Oh, here's the last one. So this is another 2-page spread, which is why you see the little fold in the middle. So we went to this bridge, and this is a bridge that Matt had been to with Serge when they were there last year. And we were shooting down at the other end. We were way down here shooting, and we're basically just shooting the Eiffel Tower. And what I said to Serge was, you know what I really want to do? I don't want this to be a shot of the Eiffel Tower. I just want the Eiffel Tower in the photo. Mm-hmm. So it looks like I'm in France. It's kind of off to the side, but I want this. So I'm shooting this way with a two shots.
2-shot. Oh.
Right, 2-shot pano. And that way I was able to get the Eiffel Tower in.
That's such a great idea.
On the left side. And it's just 2 panels, but it's like a 2-shot pano, and I gotta tip the hat to Serge because for so many
people
things.
are writing up. People are saying all throughout the comments, they're like, I'm going to be shooting a ton of 2-shot panos now.
Yeah, they're really, really nice, especially with the megapixels of today's cameras. So I got totally tipped the hat to Serge. And I think, is there any other photos? And
do you know what movie that bridge is from?
I do not.
Inception, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, was it
That's
from
the Inception bridge. It kind of goes up.
Bends and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to build a book. So what I did was this. When I go to build a photo book, I start by, I do all my photos first. I go through, I tone them, I come up with what I think I want to be in the book, and I put them in a class. So I have a thing here, a book for class. So here it is. It's just all the photos that I want to be in the book. All right? Then you go to the book module. Now, in the book module of Lightroom, I'm going to clear everything off so we can start from scratch. There's a thing called auto layout. And basically what it'll do is it'll create as many, you only get 2 pages to start. It'll create as many pages as is necessary for the number of photos you have. I have 57 photos, so I'll select all, and then you go choose auto layout. Now you get to choose different layouts. They have some, you can create your own. I created some of my own. It does let you create your own ones. I have fine art layout, a fine art book. Mm-hmm. 1 photo on one side, 2 on the other, left side blank, right side. You can create whatever you want. We're going to go with a fine art layout. And all you do is hit auto layout and watch. Nothing happens. Select all. Hey, oh, maybe it's still, is this working? Is it thinking? Or is it just dead?
I think it's dead.
No, there we
go.
Boom. And look, it builds the book for you. 1 click and it builds it. Now, I know that you're probably thinking, well, I would prefer to stick them in, in the order that I want. Here's why I so recommend doing it this way. Because what you'll find is, even though it's random, it'll put things together that you go, hey, that looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Hey, look over here. You'll find pages that you will not want to change one little bit just out of the luck of the draw.
Uh-huh.
And often, like with as many pages as this book is, you might go, you know what? I think there's 5 or 6 pages I'm not going to touch at all. I'm done. But if you do want to change a page, it's actually very easy. So if you look in the corner, here's the full book view, here's a 2-page spread, or here's an individual one. So I'll usually work in the 2-page spread or the regular view, and you can get a bigger view if you want by just hiding panels, right? So let's just say I found a shot that I like somewhere in here, and I'm having a hard time with that. Over here, you can go and choose how many photos you want, 2-page spread, how you want it to look. Now, you notice that, let's make it bigger. It doesn't fill the whole image. So you're going to, it'll usually automatically zoom. You can zoom it to fill.
Mm-hmm.
If you zoom too far, which since this was shot with a D800, I don't know how far.
I don't think you'll get that
yeah,
far.
I can't get.
Oh, yeah, no, it did. A little exclamation point.
Oh, this little exclamation point in the top right corner says you don't have enough resolution to print it this big, a 2-page spread at the size book that you chose, right? So you just move it. As soon as that goes away, look, I can almost make it.
Yeah.
But as soon as it goes away, then you can, and what's nice is you can position it after the fact. The reason that this photo actually didn't make the book, you can see the quicksand really well, but it didn't make it was something my wife pointed out. She said, you know what the problem with this shot is? There's many, but she goes, the star of the photo is the clouds. You went all the way out here to see this amazing place, and what you really have is a really great cloud picture. I'm like, she goes, the clouds are overwhelming the building and all the buildings. I'm like, you're right. I really liked the sand. That was the thing I thought was cool. So I could compose it like that, to where you have a ton of sand and it's not, But this is, look at the prints.
Listen to the wife.
Quicksand, I know, she's good, she's good. So that's all there is to actually making the book, is just hit auto, and then you can go through here and decide how many pictures that you want on a page. You want 2 photos, also, you can swap photos out. Look at the bottom here. If you look at the bottom, it shows this photo was used once, this photo was used once. It shows, that way you can keep track of which ones actually made it or not. If you want to change your mind, if you don't like the photo that's there, watch. You can drag and drop to swap, or you can take a photo from here and drag it up there. So some of these photos.
And change to 2 now, because it was used somewhere else too.
Right. So the number changed 2, which means this is on another page. You have duplicates somewhere in your book. But I mean, really, and when you're done, when you get it all the way you like it, and you've got everything, you can change your background color. You can go to backgrounds, make it black. It's white, but let's just click on black. You can change your background colors and things, and you can have them all, just on an individual page color or on every page. You say apply background globally. I had that turned on and it made every page black. But when you're finally done, you go to book settings and it shows you, I chose the standard landscape size. It's soft cover, but you can choose a hardcover with an image wrap or a hardcover dust jacket if you really want a nice photo book. It gives you the estimated price, so this book would be $32.12. Now, you can get a discount. If you don't mind Blurb putting their logo in the back of the book, watch the price. It was $32, $26.39.
20%?
Yeah.
It goes down 20%. Just like that. Hey, any questions over there, RC?
No, so far it seems like it's going pretty good. It seems like everybody's just a lot of wow, asking a little bit more information about the books, and a lot of people saying thanks. I'm spreading the word. Thank you for another awesome video. So it seems like all well received.
How balancing? So first off, my guess is looking at the amount of photos. You were there, 8, 9, 10 days?
I was there 4 days.
Did you sleep?
No, we slept. We had a wonderful time.
I know.
But I only took, including HDRs, panos, and everything, I only took 800 and something photos. So if you take out the HDRs, which are 5 shots apiece, right, then I probably took around 150 photos a day, which is not a lot. I feel like I should have shot a lot more. Once I realized how few photos I took, I'm like,
Yeah.
but you know what it was too?
But it doesn't look it.
But here's the thing. I'm there with my wife. we're there with friends, we're going to nice dinners, we're having fun. I didn't want it to make it like, if it was you and me, I'd have had 2,000 shots, right?
Yeah.
But you know, I wanted to be there to enjoy the vacation. And I've gotten much, much better about that, because there was a time where I would have shot 2,000 shots. But I'm at this point in my life where I really want to remember Paris. I want to enjoy my friends. I want to enjoy the time with my wife. I want to have a great time. I don't want to just like, I've got to, you know, I got to shoot 2,000
How do you
photos.
balance that?
Well, the thing is there were times where I would take the camera with me, and there were times where I didn't. There were times where the only camera on me was my iPhone. And so, you know, that's pretty much what I did. Of course, I did have the photo walk. On my photo walk, I virtually shot nothing. On Serge's photo walk, I shot quite a bit. I'm also very lucky that my wife is an iPhoneographer, and she's pretty serious about it, and so she wants to shoot too. So that made it a lot better. Hey, a couple of things before we go. So I'm going to give away 100 of those passes. They are passes to Kelby training. There's 100 of them there. You can go and get a free 24-hour pass, and it starts whenever you say start. And you can go watch my travel photography class. It's the full class. I'm shooting on location in Paris. That's about an hour and a half, and then we do post-processing of all the shots that we shot on the trip, and then including building a photo book from scratch. Now I do the whole thing from scratch, like 45 minutes long, every little nuance and everything. Then there's Jay Mazel's class, a week in Paris with Jay, which is just amazing. You can watch both of those really in the same day if you want. It's 24 hours. So for those of you watching live, you can go to that address, kelbytraining.com/online/free trial, and sign up. We would love to have you go and check out the classes.
And after this webcast, we're actually going to play a few lessons from each one of those classes.
Right,
so,
yeah, you're going to play
just-
like a 5-minute lesson from my class. So don't, when we say goodbye, which we're going to in just a moment, when we do, stick around for 10 more minutes and watch a clip from my class and a clip from Jay's class. So even if you don't get the 100, we're not one of those 100 people, you can still...
Yeah, and I know we have to go. You pointed out one thing that I thought was really important. I don't even know, it kind of just glanced by when I asked you about how do you balance that. And I think one thing that's really important to remember that you said is you want to go and enjoy it. And I don't think anybody can argue you got really beautiful photos from where you went. I think part of that comes from enjoying where you are.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been there. I've been there. I know RC's been there, and I bet you a ton of people out there have been in that situation where we think, like, we go on a vacation and we think, I gotta shoot, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, and you come back and you didn't really enjoy where you were. You know what I mean? You get back and you're like,
well, I've done that.
I shot a lot.
I've experienced my vacation through a viewfinder, and I don't like that. And you know, especially since my wife was getting me this as a birthday present, you know, and we really did. We really wanted to be able to enjoy it, and we did. Like the second day, we slept for 11 hours straight. We didn't get up till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we stayed up very late at night because they eat late in France and all.
Yeah.
But I mean, I really felt like even only 4 days. And you know what I've realized too? 4 days, I can see anywhere in 4 days. Really, 4 days is, you know, because after the fourth day, it's like if I had another day in Paris, I wouldn't have stayed in Paris. I would have gone someplace else. I would have taken a trip out, maybe to the French Alps or down to the southern France, south of France. I've never been there. But I think 4 days is you can cover an amazing amount if you do a little research before you go. I think that makes a big difference. Hey, RC, thank you very much for helping us out here today.
Yeah, not a problem. Happy
Very cool of you. Thank you for simul-streaming this. Simul-streamed on Google+. And Matt, thank you very much for hanging out with me here. I hope you guys enjoyed, picked up a couple tips maybe.
Cool.
Hopefully.
Make sure you stick around afterwards too for a couple lessons from the classes.
Stick around after also. Now this is completely unrelated to what I'm talking about, but even though it's 8:30 at night here on the East Coast, I'm going to try tomorrow. I'm going to try to do it tonight, but I can't guarantee it. But I'm going to try to do my sports photography workflow on my blog tomorrow. I know it's an undertaking, but so if you go to scottkelby.com tomorrow, I hope to have it there. If you go by and it's not there, you'll know I got very tired. But if I'm not super tired, that's what's going on.
We'll be there soon, I
tomorrow.
guess. Cool.
All right. Thanks everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks for stopping in.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.
When we did our shot list way up front, I mentioned about contrasting colors being a thing that you see a lot in travel magazines that makes really great shots. So what I mean by that is really searching out those places that have the colorful shutters, the clothes hanging on the clothesline outside a house, and things like that. And we're in Montmartre. It's a beautiful area here. I'm going to wander around and see if I can find some of those contrasting colors. And by the way, this is a perfect thing to shoot on an overcast or a rainy day. Just after it's rained, the colors are going to be really, really saturated then. If you try to shoot color in the middle of the afternoon, the light's just a little too harsh and it just won't look right. So we're here much, much, much later in the day. The sun's almost down. And so the color right now out here is beautiful. And so this is a great time to capture that. Anytime where it's not bright sunlight, you're going to have great color. Another thing you can do is if you see a really colorful wall, you go see a bright blue wall, a bright red wall, a bright anything wall, go across the street and be patient. And eventually somebody will walk by in a contrasting color. You'll have somebody walk by a yellow wall and they're wearing a red coat, or they're using a red umbrella, or they have some other thing that will just make them stand out like mad on that wall. So if you see any kind of a solid garage door or a solid wall or something, that's a great place to camp out to get some great travel shots. So is there a time where beautiful travel shots happen? Absolutely. You know when they usually happen? The same time beautiful landscape shots happen and beautiful outdoor shots happen of any kind. 2 times during the day, around dawn and around dusk. The light at those times of the day is absolutely beautiful. The problem is your tour bus is probably leaving right afterwards. So here's the thing. So if you go, oh man, my tour bus is leaving at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. and I've already missed the good light, you can get up early before your tour bus leaves and go out and get the most beautiful light in the city. Now here's the thing, there's a couple of things to keep in mind about this that are real advantages. Number one is when you go out early in the morning to shoot, chances are the streets are empty, the monuments are empty, the tourist attractions are empty, all of the beautiful churches that you want to shoot and beautiful monuments are probably just about empty. That's one huge advantage. Another huge advantage is that the temperatures are cooler. Most people will wind up shooting their vacation photos during summer because that's normally when we take vacation. But that usually means much higher temperatures. So with much higher temperatures, if you get up early in the morning, you're going to have cooler temperatures there. And if you shoot at sunset or anytime around there or just after sunset, you're going to have much cooler temperatures then. So it's much, much better. So if you want the dynamic travel shots, the kind that you see in magazines, try to shoot in beautiful light. Anywhere just around dawn and just after dawn for maybe a half an hour, or the half an hour before and after sunset, you're going to get some amazing light. Okay, so what do you shoot in bad light? Well, bad light's going to happen quite a lot during the travel day. It's not going to be good at 11 and it's going to get worse progressively till about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So that section where you're normally out on the bus or out shooting in different locations, that's when things are going to be pretty much the worst. Those are great times to go shoot inside churches, to shoot anywhere indoors, to shoot inside a market, to shoot any place where you're not really shooting in a bad light. So don't get up at dawn and go shoot the interior of a church. Save that for when things are really, really bad. Also, what do you shoot if you run into rain, which is very, very likely? You're going to shoot the same things you shoot in bad light. Of course, you're going to go indoors and things, but don't miss the opportunity to shoot outdoors in rain by just getting to a covered position. If you shoot from an outdoor cafe that has an awning over it, or a storefront that has an awning over it, or even if you use an umbrella, or if worse comes to worse, use some of the rain gear that we talked about in the gear guide. Any of those things will give you a great shot because cement looks wonderful, especially cobblestone streets and things look absolutely beautiful when they're wet. In fact, all the colors are saturated, everything's very, very vivid. By the way, what happens if you do get your camera gear wet when you're out shooting and stuff? Well, here's what you do. Just take a towel, don't dry it all the way around, pat it dry. Literally, just take it and pat it dry as best as you can. You don't really want to just wipe it because what you wind up doing is wiping rain and water into your lens and into your body. So just very, very carefully pat it dry all the way around to keep things dry. Well, there's a couple of tips for shooting, when to shoot in the best light and what you do when you're not in the best light.
You're going to take a lot of bad pictures in your time, but it's all in a quest of something. It's not just to see what happens if you click the shutter. It's in a quest of a moment, and you're going to miss moments. You're going to miss them by a mile, and you're going to miss them by a second. You're going to have a piece of crap in a picture that you didn't want in there. The gesture of the moment may change, and you might be a half second late. It happens, but you have to keep on working on it. And the more you work on it, the more proficient you become on it. And this whole business of gesture is hard to convey until you accept the fact that everything in the world is different from everything else in the world.
Does this come back to the editing then? Because, like, look at the gentleman sitting on this bench over to, all right.
Yeah.
There's nothing particularly interesting about him. He doesn't look, and I don't mean anything bad. He's a fine-looking guy, but he's not doing anything interesting. He's not dressed interesting, and he doesn't really particularly have any kind of interesting gesture. So, but we take a lot of pictures like that where we go, oh, look, there's a guy alone on the bench. Click, 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 click. So, and maybe we're just shooting the low-hanging fruit that okay, well, but it's, he's not doing anything interesting. Well, I now have a better idea of what I'm looking for when I'm shooting street.
Yeah, I mean, but this
people.
is me. You may find, for instance, let's say we walk on a street together,
Right.
and I take a close-up of a guy's hand behind his back, and the background is out of focus, and it's a very nice artsy-fartsy shot.
Right.
You take a very pedestrian photograph of the entire street. In 50 years, nobody's going to give a damn about my photograph, but you're going to have a photograph of a block who's disappeared. So there's a history aspect of it too. We have an obligation to take normal pictures also, to make a record of what's going on.
Yeah,
we
historical
shouldn't
record.
also always be cute. Sometimes it's about information, and you don't want to stand in the way of that information by being clever.
Good
So
point.
there's no one, there are no answers, there are only interesting questions.
All right. Well, thank you though, Jay, because that kind of gives me a better idea. It's very frustrating for me to be at the end of the block with you, and you show me what you got on your camera. Now I understand that, you know, you've been doing this a very, very long time, and you know.
I've been doing this over 60 years.
Over 60 years?
I should be, you know, catching on.
You're catching on. You're actually getting pretty good. I'm surprised.
You know what Hiroshige said, a very famous painter? He had a whole program of what he was going to do at 60, at 80, at 100, and he died at 80, and before he died he said, it's a shame, I was just beginning to understand what painting was about.
Ah, wow.
Because the more you know, the less you know. The more you know, the less the more aware you are of how little you know.
You know, I know. That's the crazy thing about getting old, isn't it?
Oh, there's a lot of crazy things.
About getting old, there's a ton of crazy things. We were in the park a few minutes. When we were in the park a few minutes ago,
Yeah.
you were talking about buildings having gesture,
Yeah.
and different things, and you showed me a picture of a lamppost.
I'd never seen that lamppost before. It
And-
had a very unique gesture of its very,
I
very
know.
own.
And when I saw the picture on the back of your camera, and you're like, "See that? I've never seen that before."
Yeah.
That clicked on, because I was having a hard time when you're saying that building has gesture. I'm like, well, I mean, it's unique to itself, but when you showed me that lamppost and you said, "See, that has gesture," I'm like, "Oh, I get it."
Right. And you'll start seeing more things like that as time goes by, because it's a refining of your perception of what's around you. And there's really no reason in the world why you would be aware of it unless you try to be aware of it. And once you start seeing it, you're going to see it everywhere. I mean, look, that has gesture. It's graffiti, it's vandalism, it's everything, but it has gesture. It has, I mean, if you look at it, you can see the antecedents of that in Jackson Pollock's work. And you can see it in other artists' work.